known to Albuquerque residents and fans as Jimmy Mitchem, the former St. Pius star and also the former DePaul star who actually played. This is kind of memories of the Final Four, and where are they now? And Dr. Mitchem, Jimmy, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eddie. Pleasure to be here.
Jimmy, gosh, you've done so many things since you left Albuquerque. You played at St. Pius for 1 year. You played at Highland, and you did the opposite of what your brother Steve and I did. Your brother Steve and I were at Pius and went to Highland. You were at Highland and went to Pius. And you played with my older brother, and I've got such great memories of when you played as a senior with my brother Danny. But this is memories of the Final Four. We're going to get into the St. Pius years too. But last night, Kansas beating North Carolina 72-69. You're still a big fan. Give us some impressions. Kansas down at the half, Jimmy, and I'll tell you what. It looked like, hey, they were down 15, and they came back. Largest comeback in Final Four history. Jimmy, give us your impressions of the game last night.
Well, Kansas was not a number one seed for no reason. And I think the shot clock has changed the game dramatically. So even with a 15-point lead, a 15-point lead today is not like a 15-point lead when there was no shot clock. And so, all you got to do is get a couple. And then also the three-point line has made a significant difference in the game. As you know, when we played, there was none of that. No shot clock, no three-point line. And so, you get three stops, you hit three threes, and you're right back in the game. So, a 15-point lead seems like, or 16-point lead, as a matter of fact, it was. It's the largest in NCAA history of the finals of that a team came back. But yet, a 15-point, 16-point lead with a half to go is not insurmountable. And again, Kansas played very well. They came out the second half. They pressured on defense. They hit their shots, and they came back. It was a tremendous win for them.
It really was. My wife and I were watching it at half. I was like, hey, I was talking to my son too, and I didn't think, that they could come back. But you're right. Now with the three-point shot, everything is a lot different. It used to be a lot more inside out when you played. And we're going to go back to your memories of when you played for DePaul in 1978 and 1979. We've got some great pictures. 26-6 that season that you played with DePaul under Coach Ray Meyer. And I went to the finals that you in the tournament beat Southern California 89-78, 62-56. Against Marquette, 95-91 against UCLA, and then losing to Indiana State in the semifinals, 76-74. I want to ask you, those are tough games. Every single one of those games, Jimmy, were tough, I'm sure. Southern California, the first round, Marquette, coached by Al McGuire in the second round, and then UCLA, coached by Gary Cunningham. They had Kiki Vandeweghe, David Greenwood, Brad Holland. What's your memories, before we get into the Final Four, what's your memories of that game against UCLA? I looked at that one, I'm like, wow, that must have been one heck of a game.
Yeah, I remember that game. And I remember because they had beaten us so badly the first game of the season, I think it was almost 30, maybe 30 to 36 points. They beat us the first game of the season. And so when we came into that game, the regional finals, I remember Coach Ray saying, listen, we got nothing to lose. No one expects us to win. So just play loose. Everybody play your game, play loose, take your shots. And see what happens. And so I think UCLA came out a little cocky, as we did the following year, because the roles were exactly reversed. We beat them terribly in the first game of the season, and they beat us in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So we played loose. We got up on them big in the first half. And then I remember halftime Ray saying, let's take the air out of the ball and let's see if we can run out the clock on them. So, I think if there had been, a couple minutes left more in the game, they might have been able to catch us, because our lead slowly was sapped because we were holding the ball. And so we played a stall game in the second half, and luckily the clock ran out before they could catch up. But we got a big lead early, and we were able to hold on to that to win the game. So it was a tremendous win for us. It was not expected. We weren't even ranked to start the season, because we lost players like Joe Ponsetto and our center, Bill Corzine, All-American guard Randy Ramsey, so I was new. Mark Aguirre was new. Clyde Bradshaw had come off the bench the previous year, so no one knew, what we were going to do. And so by the end of the season, we were ranked number 6 in the final poll, and we're fortunate enough to win those 3 games to get to the Final Four and play against Larry Bird. So it was a really exciting time.
I think about this, Jimmy. 95 to 91 against UCLA, right? And remember, no 3-point shots then. And you got Kiki Vandeweghe, who went to the pros. David Greenwood went to the pros. Of course, we're going to go over your teammates here, and they're no slouches either. Brad Holland had a cup of coffee with the Lakers, won a championship in 1980. Again, UCLA, the legacy that John Wooden had left there, right? They're still
Right.
very well thought of. So a big win for your team there. And you played with Mark Aguirre. He averaged 24 points that season. Curtis Watkins at 17 points. Gary Garland at 17 points. Clyde Bradshaw, another starter at 11. You came in with 8.3 points and 5.8 rebounds. Now, Mark Aguirre, a number 1 draft pick for the Dallas Mavericks, won a couple of championships with the Detroit Pistons. Not in the Hall of Fame yet. Probably should be. I mean, that guy had the biggest, in the post. That guy was so hard to stop. Could shoot outside too. Tell us a little bit about your teammates. I remember watching on NBC, everybody in Albuquerque, so excited to see one of our own, right, participating. And I remember talking to your brother Steve and I are still very good friends. And I remember calling him back and forth, and everybody's real excited. But talk about your teammates that year, because again, those names there are, everybody remembers Gary Garland. I think Gary Garland's a singer too, right? Was he the singer?
You're the singer, and in fact, he's Whitney Houston's brother.
That's right. So
Right.
yeah, he sang the national anthem a couple of times, right?
Yes, he has.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
So talk to us a little bit about that, your teammates there, and who you played with, because Jimmy, that's impressive.
Yeah, well, all those guys, as you just referenced, were tremendous basketball players, excellent athletes. That year, they called us the 5 Iron Men of Steel because we literally never came out. We played 40 minutes a game unless somebody fouled out. Even if we were in foul trouble, coach would find a way to hide us in the zone on the defense to keep us in the game because we just had such a continuity. Clyde and Gary were perennial All-Americans. They were the best guard tandem in the nation. Mark, as you indicated, was Mark. He was probably arguably one of the best players in the nation at the time. In fact, he was the number 1 player picked in the draft when he came out in years following. Curtis Watkins, we called him for octopus because he had such long arms and could jump out of the gym. He was a tremendous athlete as well. So we each had a role on the team. We played it to perfection, and as a result, we had great success. Yeah, I remember when I first went to DePaul. I came out of University of Denver, and I was supposedly the man there. And so obviously I was the man at St. Pius, so to speak. And so when I came to DePaul, my mindset was I'm the man. And I remember we went 3-2, and I was getting my shots. I scored 20-something points against Evansville Aces. And I remember Ray calling me and said, "Hey, man, you're not the man." I'm like, "No, I'm the man." He says, "No, you're not the man." I said, "No, I'm the man. I've always been the man. I'm the man." So he pointed to Mark. He said, "Hey, he's the man." He says, "You're not the man." He says, "And we're not going to win if you keep shooting. So we need you to play defense, run the floor, cut off the baseline, get rebounds, take your shots when they come to you. Don't try to create. And if you don't want to do that, we got a guy sitting on the end of the bench called Bill Mayday. He'll come in and play his role." And so it was like either play your role or sit. And so I said, okay. I swallowed my pride at the time. And when I reflect, obviously, he's a great coach. He knew what he was talking about. He knew what was best for the team. So I played my role. And we got to where we were able to get with each of us having a role on the team. It's funny, though, when we got to the tournament, he said, "Hey, you know what, that role I told you to play, throw it out the window. Play loose. Take your shots when you want to." So during the tournament, I averaged double figures, had a great tournament that year. It allowed me to get drafted to the Golden State Warriors. And because we just played loose, we played free. And as a result, we were able to get to where we got. But yeah, all 4 of those guys were great players. In fact, all 5 of us got drafted to the NBA. So, those guys were no slouch, as you indicated.
Those pictures we're seeing, great pictures that you sent, and you did. Okay, now we want to get to the semifinal against Indiana State. You only lose by 2, right? Indiana State goes on into the championship and loses to Michigan State, and there's some great shots there. You actually played against Larry Bird. Carl Nix was one of their guards.
Right.
Carl Nix was nice. People forget Carl Hicks was a lefty you could play.
He could definitely play.
Yeah, and so tell us about that. There's a great picture there. Again, thanks to you and to your brother Steve for sending these pictures. Great memories there, Jimmy. Tell us a little bit about that semifinal game against Indiana State. Only lost by 2. I remember watching on NBC, man. There's another great shot there of Larry Bird, the one of the greatest players in NBA history. Tell us about that semifinal game, Jimmy.
Oh yeah, it was a great game. And again, at that time, once we got to the final four, we knew that it was anybody's tournament. We knew Magic and his team, Michigan State, had tremendous athletes, and they were clearly at that time favored to win, even though Indiana State was undefeated, number one in the country. Everyone recognized that Michigan State was very, very special. I remember Michigan State, Magic saying after we lost to Larry Bird that he was relieved that we lost to them because we had 5 players that could score. And basically Indiana State had Knicks and Bird. And so he said, we'd have been much tougher opponent just because of matchups than Indiana State would have. But I think it was divine intervention for Bird and Magic to play in the championship. But that game we played against them, we played them pretty close the whole game. It was a very neck and neck game. And in the end, we had the ball in the lead, and we made a couple critical errors that we normally don't. Clyde Bradshaw had a turnover where I think he dribbled off his foot, and another turnover was where the ball went over Curtis Watkins' ankle, and then Gary Garland uncharacteristically missed a free throw, and they ended up beating us by 2. But we had that game, and probably 9 out of 10 times we've been in the same situation, which we had been before we went, because we made very, very few mistakes. We hit our free throws, and once we got the ball, it was tough to get it from us with the 2 All-American guards who could handle it. And if you put us at the free throw line, we all could shoot free throws. So if we got a lead and we got the ball with no shot clock, you could pretty much count yourself out. But unfortunately, that game, a couple, 2-3 things didn't go our way in the last couple of minutes, and we ended up losing. But I remember it being a great game.
Those games, as you know, Jimmy, you've been around the game a long time, come down to bounces, a play here and a play there. Now, I remember one thing, they an NBC commentator at that time, Al McGuire, right? Al McGuire is saying foul Martin. You went to the free throw line and nailed your free throws. He got your name wrong, had to apologize later. Talk a little bit about that, because I remember hearing that, and people that love you here in Albuquerque, wait a minute, man, we don't get a lot of shine here in Albuquerque as it is, and you got the guys. I can imagine your mother and dad, again, Jimm and Veronica Mitchem, 2 great people, great people. I spent a lot of time with them. And, anyway, talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think that started the UCLA game because, he basically ended up after the game apologized to me and telling me that he was disrespectful to me and that he got my name wrong and that he got my town wrong. He said I was from Phoenix, Arizona, said Albuquerque, New Mexico, called me Jimm Mitchem instead of Jimm Mitchem. And I remember when I was taking shots, he didn't really know much about me as a player. And I took a shot and I missed it. And he said, I remember him saying that's not a shot that Ray Meyer wants him to take, and that if he takes another one, he's probably going to come out and Bill Mayday's going to come in. So I don't know that he was well versed on our team and the fact that we didn't sub and we were 5 Ironmen, a steal, etc. And then I took another shot and hit it. And he said, hey, he hit the shot, but that's still not a shot Ray Meyer wants him to take. It was a bad shot selection. I hit another and another and another, and it was 16 points, I believe, that game. And we have all of my shots were from the perimeter. And so I remember after the game, he came up to me and said, hey, man, I disrespected you and I apologize. He says, I called you Jimm Mitchem from Arizona when you're Jimmy Mitchem from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he says, I just wanted to apologize to you. And I didn't pay much attention to it until I saw the video. And I saw the video, I was like, wow, this guy really was, on me about the shots I took, even as I hit them. By the end of the game, though, he was saying, hey, you can't let this guy stay open. You got to stay on him. He can shoot it. And then when we got to the Final Four, he was very, very positive. And, that's what he said, I was playing like an All-American and said a lot of positive things about me. But I do remember the transformation from when he didn't really know who I was to watching me play, saying I had a bad shot selection, to saying I could shoot it to get to the Final Four, and then it was all positive. So it was good times, and I was grateful that he at least acknowledged that he was disrespectful, to say the least, in the UCLA game, but during the Indiana State game, he was very, very positive.
Came back to being a professional. Jimmy, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about your son, Tyler Mitchem, one of the best volleyball players in the United States. Well, after these messages on the Sports Desk.
And that one's hit to where it won't be caught. He hit that one so high that he touched base before it touched the ground. Puts that one into right, and it's going to travel a little bit all the way to the scoreboard and over. And I told you he's a competitor. That one's hit deep into left. Oh, wee. The new pitchers. And that one's hit into deep left, and it's not going to be catchable. Hit deep into right center. That is a home run. 3 of them in one swing for the home team. Big swing there, and the bat gets away. Here's the delivery. Got him looking. Up the middle. 4-6-3. And out of the inning are the Cowboys as Van Curler comes in and he erases any threat that could have been there. That one's hit into right center. I think he got it. Kuhn over the fence. Solo shot. Playing some of the reserves today. Right at second and doubled off in time at first.
For certified collision and body repair, visit the experts at CarCrafters. 5 locations in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho. Visit carcrafters.com.
CarCrafters, it's like it never happened.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a #1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Back to the Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. Our special guest today is Jimm Mitchem, former St. Pius player, former DePaul player. And Jimmy, I've got one quote about you, about somebody that knows you. Coach Galcini positioned us to work on each other and make each other better. I got to play college ball because of Jimmy. Jimmy wanted them to take me to Denver, but I got to play at Western Wyoming, and that's from my older brother Danny. You know, my older brother Danny, and played ball with you in '75. And I'll tell you what, I used to watch you guys at the old St. Pius gym. I was right there watching you guys go at it.
Yep.
And, you know, Coach Galcini, Lincoln Galcini, what a great man, you know, with Clarence Murphy, Steve DeSonia. I mean, I didn't miss a game. Mitchem's Muggers on the stage. So
Right,
you have,
right.
guys, your own fans, with their badges. I never forgot it. Poor Danny could never leave the house without me, and I still look up to my older brother very, very
Yeah.
much. He's about
Good.
the only one in the world that don't get double barrels of what I think.
Right.
He's the only one. I mean, because
Right.
of the respect, right? Everybody
no
else
doubt.
gonna get it. Everybody
Right.
else gonna get double barrels. But that's
Right.
my older brother. That's still a lot of respect, and so that's what my older brother thinks of you. And Jimmy, we're going to get into this real quick because I want to make sure we cover this. Your son Tyler plays at Lewis University volleyball, 6'11" with a 36-inch vertical leap. Let's get some pictures up of your son Tyler. Tell us about your son Tyler. And you mentioned the physical gifts, Jimmy. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, growing up, he was the last of my sons that I thought would be an athlete. He never. I mean, we tried everything with him: soccer, baseball, basketball, football, everything, and he just didn't gravitate to anything. He was into earthworms and bugs and all those things. And then in his ninth grade year, he said to me, "Dad, I want to try to play volleyball." And I said, "Okay, go ahead. That's great." It was a sport we never tried. He made the team his ninth grade year because he was about 6'3", but he was terrible. I remember watching his first game. His mother and I said, "Man, like, that's embarrassing. We really, prefer if that's as good as it gets. We prefer really kind of not to come to the games." So at the time, I was the principal at the high school. He was playing at Bolingbrook High School, and so then he did his own research. He came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, I want to try to play club volleyball. They got a club out here in Naperville called Naperville Volleyball Club in BC." And so he said, "Can I try out?" I'm like, "Sure." He's like, "Well, how much is it?" He said $3,000. I said, "Well, I'm not paying $3,000 for you to play volleyball because you're not any good." He said, "Well, can I at least try out?" I said, "Yeah, you can try out, but it's a club, so they're going to cut you." Well, he went and tried out, and he made the team. So then he came to me and says, "I made the team, but I'll just go tell the coach you can't afford it." So he tried to shame me, because he knew I could afford it. So I said, "Okay,
Right.
I'll pay for it." So he paid 1 year there. The coach, who was a great man, said to me, "Hey, your kid's got gifts. He needs to play for Sports Performers, which is one of the premier volleyball clubs in the nation." So I put him there. That was about $5,000 a year. Put my daughter there as well, and then from there it was history. The guy just took off. They taught him everything he needed to know. He had the physical gifts, and he ended up at Lewis. He's played in 2 Final Fours. He's a 3-time All-American. He's considered arguably the number 1 college middle blocker in the country, and he'll be competing to try to make the Olympic team for 2024. So the guy's just I'm very proud of him. He's a great volleyball player, a great athlete, and above all of that, he's just a humble, nice kid. You would never know. He doesn't carry himself like he's a world-class volleyball player that he is. He's played all over the world: China,
Wow.
Europe, South America, Asia. He's played everywhere. So he's got a great experience. He's finishing out his graduate year. Got his master's degree in aviation administration, master's degree in aviation mechanics. So he's got his whole life ahead of him. He's really set himself up for success.
Boy, you got to be really proud. Jimmy, after you left Albuquerque, you were in education for many years as superintendent of schools out there in Illinois. You've got a building named after you. One of the early childhood buildings was named after you after you retired. You've done well for yourself. And again, I go back to your mom and dad. I spent a lot of time at your dad, your mom and dad's house, and I still see your father and your mother great influences on you, on all your brothers and sisters. You've all been very successful. Talk a little bit about your careers as superintendent of schools. You're retired now. You're doing a little bit of still going back to Illinois and being a principal. But tell us about the giving back to the communities that you've been in. What an amazing career you've had, Jim.
Yeah, I found out after I got cut from the NBA that I was an educator. In fact, I didn't really pay attention to the degree I got because I just thought I was going to the NBA. So I dusted off my diploma and became a physical education teacher. Didn't really know that it was it wasn't really a calling for me, but they asked me to be a dean of students, and that's when I became connected with at-risk kids and kids who had a lot of issues and a lot of problems, and I fell in love with them. And so from there, I thought, hey, I can make an impact on an individual kid here and an individual kid there, but I thought the system really wasn't designed to ensure that all kids were successful. So I said, well, maybe I can do better things if I become an administrator and affect the system as opposed to address it kid by kid. And so I went back to school, got my master's degree in educational leadership, became a principal at a middle school and then 2 different high schools, and then was able to do some really good things with the kids, just by believing in them and making some systemic changes within the education system where I could, and it paid off with kids' academic results improving. And so I remember the Board of Education said, hey, if you could do what you did at the 3 schools that you ran for a whole district, we'd like to give it a shot. And so they gave me a superintendency, and I did that for 10 years. And we, a lot of gnashing of teeth, a lot of storm before the quiet, because we really did a lot of things differently than what is tradition in the American education system. And as a result, we became, based on our socioeconomic status, our demographic status, we became one of the highest performing districts in the state when comparing apples to apples. And upon my retirement, they bestowed upon me the gift of naming a building after me because of the things that happened. But none of that was directly because of me. I provided the vision, but the people who worked with me provided the support and the initiative to get done what it is I thought we could do. It wasn't rocket science. It was all based on past practice at work and special situations. And so, we just did things that were strategically, that were statistically validated to work. We put a lot of pressure on the staff to believe in kids. We put them first, and as a result, good things happen. So I'm very proud of the career I had in education, probably more so than even my basketball career, because we were able to affect young people's lives in a positive way. And that's something.
Got about a minute left, Jimmy, and you know what? You're living your best life. You're retired, and I even asked you. I had you on the radio at 99.9 FM here in Albuquerque about a year ago, and I just thought, you've got no aspirations to be in politics or anything. You're living a happily retired life, giving back still, but you're a happily retired former educator.
Yes, sir.
Jimmy, I got to tell you, it's great to catch up with you. Albuquerque hasn't heard of, about you for a while, and I wanted them to remember your basketball career, but more importantly, what you gave back, because that's more important. You mentioned that. Basketball doesn't last forever. We had a big passion for it. You did very well in it. You had a great career, but it was your career afterward, I think, that defined you as a person even more.
Thank you very much. I would concur.
Jimm Mitchem, former DePaul player, also from former star at St. Pius High School, played in the Final Four 1978, 1979. Thank you for being our guest today. Dr. Mitchem, it was our honor and pleasure.
Thank you, Eddie. Good to see you again. Tell Danny I said hello.
You bet I sure will. For producer Alden Iwani, I'm Ed Nuenz. We'll see you next week on the Sports Desk.